If you're consuming oxygen, if you're aerobically cellular respiring, it's inevitable. A byproduct of cellular respiration, we know is is carbon dioxide. To make ATP, CO2. You produce CO2 when you're making ATP. And it has to do with the complexes that are found in the inner membrane of your mitochondria. Hopefully this brings back good memories, because if it's not, in about a week or so, I'm gonna force it on you, cellular respiration. You have 4 complexes in your inner membrane of the mitochondria, but the same complexes are gonna be found in the cell membrane of bacteria, because they don't have a mitochondria. If you remember from cellular respiration from Gen Bio, this is called the electron, does anyone know? Transport chain, very good. So what do you think is being transported? An electron, there you go. And it comes from a delivery truck called NADH. NADH delivers electrons to complex 1, but then there's another delivery truck, FADH2, but it delivers electrons to complex 2. You will hear all of this again when we talk about cellular respiration in chapter 8, which is the next chapter. Now, the electron that goes to complex 1 will jump and go to complex 3. It actually doesn't jump, it gets delivered there by a carrier. And then this electron gets delivered by another carrier to complex 4, eventually to oxygen. And what do you make out of that? Water. So that's why we breathe. We breathe because oxygen is called the final electron acceptor. That's why we breathe. If we don't breathe oxygen, this whole thing shuts down. And of course, you're going to suffer the consequences that you won't be able to make ATP. Because when these electrons are transferred to oxygen, what's happening is hydrogen is being pumped out. Hydrogen from the matrix to the space. And then all the hydrogens come back into the matrix through something called ATP synthase. And when they do that, when it does that, that's the one that's making ATP. So to activate this guy, you have to pump hydrogen through it. So that's the one that's making ATP. So if you don't breathe oxygen, this whole thing shuts down and you're not making ATP, and of course, you don't survive that. So this is like a rough run through of the event. Don't worry, you'll hear it again. I'm trying to get to something here. Look at the path of the electron. The electron goes from this one to this one to this one. If it was FADH2, it's the same thing, but it goes from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to oxygen, oxygen becomes water, similar. It's just a slight difference in the path. Yeah, eventually from FADH2 it goes to complex 2, but the electron, the rest of the way, it's the same path. Sometimes this guy says, complex 1 says, I don't want to do this. I don't want to give the electron to complex 3. What do you want? I want to give it to oxygen straight. You don't want that. You don't want the electron to go to oxygen straight. Because when that happens, you produce this. That's a bad guy. That's called superoxide ion. This guy is like destroying your DNA, your proteins, your mitochondria. It's actually been attributed to your aging as well. It's caused disease. Causes diseases, causes aging. These are oxidants. Have you ever heard of someone saying, take your antioxidants? Antioxidants are vacuum cleaners of these guys, because these guys are not good for you. They're not good for to your cells. But it's inevitable. Once in a while, this guy is going to say, I don't want to do this, I want to go like this. So you will produce this. These are called superoxide ions. They are toxic to your cells. So one option is to tell this guy, hey, stop working. Oh, that would be bad. Stop working so you can stop making this. But if you ask it to stop working, what will it also stop making? This. So that's not a solution. That's not the solution. To save your cell from the toxin, your cell is going to die from the lack of ATP. That's not a solution. Get rid of the toxin. That's the solution. It's like a factory building something, making something, and they produce waste products. They have to deal with the waste products, not necessarily shut down the factory. And that's what we're about to do. If you are aerobically respiring, and you are, you have to have an enzyme that converts this into another toxin that is less toxic. And that enzyme is called superoxide dismutase. And that converts this one to H2O2, which is hydrogen peroxide. I'm not saying hydrogen peroxide is not toxic. It is, it's still toxic, but it's not as bad as that first guy, superoxide ion. So you're converting one toxin to a lesser toxin, but that's not the final solution. The final solution is to also get rid of this one. And that's where Catalase comes in. In GenBio, we have a lab on this. We take Catalase, add it to hydrogen peroxide, and we end up with water plus oxygen gas. It bubbles. All right, so that's why if you fall and hurt yourself and you put hydrogen peroxide on your wound, it bubbles. Why? Because you have catalase in your blood that will do this reaction. As soon as you put hydrogen peroxide to kill the bacteria, your blood has catalase in it, and it will carry out the reaction, and it will cause it to bubble. You can use hydrogen peroxide for like an initial cleansing of the wound, but you should not keep using it. Just one time initially, kill the bacteria, but then after that, regular wash, neosporin, antibiotics, that's it. But you don't keep using the hydrogen peroxide, because yes, it's killing the bacteria, but it's also hurting your cells too. So your healing will be slower, your scarring will be more, and things like that. So the recommended thing is you use it once, an initial wound for cleansing, but then that's it. After that, regular cleansing, regular routine cleansing. So now we know, if you are aerobically respiring, you are going to make the superoxide ion. It's okay, I have superoxide dismutase to convert it to hydrogen peroxide. Well, that's still bad. It's okay, I have catalase that brings it down to water and oxygen. These two are not bad. Water and oxygen. I don't know anyone who would say no to these two. So, bacteria that are aerobically respiring will do the same exact thing. They have the same thing, but in the cell membrane. They will make superoxide ion. They better have this and this to survive. So aerobically respiring bacteria will have both enzymes, just like you do. Superoxide dismutase that converts superoxide ion to hydrogen peroxide, and catalase that takes hydrogen peroxide to water and oxygen. We're doing this lab here. We're gonna have two bacterial species, and you're gonna figure out which one it produces catalase and which one doesn't. A very simple lab.